Okay, hello, welcome everybody. Let's have final exam review today. So next week on 12/12, is it? 12/12/12. It is 12/12/12. On 12/12/12, you can't forget it, 12/12/12, we're going to have our final exam. And I have it with us, with me. I don't have it with you, I have it with me. Not with us, it's with me. No, I'm not giving it to us. I can't share the exam. Not until the 12th. We should have it at 12 o'clock noon on the 12th. On the 12th, 12/12 at 12 o'clock noon. Actually, no, we don't. We have it at the regular class time, which is 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'll run it from the entire time from 10 to about 12:30-ish. But you're supposed to come in at the beginning, but unlike today with the rain and everything, it's probably going to be raining next week, who knows. Don't worry if you're a little bit late, but at 1 o'clock I have another exam. If you don't make it till then, show up before 2 o'clock sometime, but leave yourself an hour or so, because at 2 o'clock we're going to have, at 1 o'clock we're going to have the other class coming in here to take an exam. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to probably be here till 2 o'clock. So because their exam isn't that long. So long story short, don't plan on being late, but if you are, don't stress out. Okay, so this is on the website. So this is what you're looking at, is the 910 CSS HTML final exam review. It is located right here, final exam review. I'm going to go over it right now and go over the questions on the exam and then tell you what to expect, so there's no surprises or mysteries or anything when you go in to take it. Alright, so what are we looking at? Topics going to be covered on it. Well, there's no Java on there. There's a little bit of JavaScript, but it's primarily HTML and CSS. No basic web development concepts really, outside of concepts of having it run from a server, FTP, stuff like that. Client-server web programming, not really that much on there either. Maybe one question in that area. So because I have the exam, I can just tell you by looking at the exam. It is worth 25 points, and there are 22 questions. You get 3 points for taking it. So you can only miss 22 points on it. You do have to take it. There are all multiple choice, and there's a couple true falses in here. Let's see. There are only one true false question. One true false question and 21 multiple choice questions. And it's covering CSS, HTML, and a little bit, but not too much. In fact, hold on one second. Maybe just one JavaScript question, it looks like. Take a look here at the back page. No JavaScript. No, there's one JavaScript question. That's about it. There's one JavaScript question. Yeah, it's mostly HTML and CSS. Well, that's the name of the class, HTML and CSS. So it's definitely geared towards this topic. I think it's a pretty easy exam, so you should be able to pass it no problem. So hopefully, if you can't pass this with no problem, I think you should reconsider your major, because you don't belong in technology if that's the point. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty basic. It's more of a formality. It's only worth 25 points. It's not a big thing, but I have to have a final exam for the course, so I figured I'm going to have to bring you in for it. You have to do it in person. So it's more of an attendance thing versus actual testing measurement. Because is there a negative marking? What do you mean by that? Negative? Oh, well, you miss. Well, do you have the ability to miss questions?
No, I mean, if you're wrong, wrong answer,
you still get the 3 points. Is that what you mean?
For the wrong answer?
No, not for wrong answer. Yes, there will be negative marking. Only positive marking? That's kind of a new concept for me. I'm trying to adjust to the question, actually. I don't know. Yes, you can lose points. You don't get the full 25 points just for showing up. You get 3 points for showing up. That's what you get for showing up. And then you have to answer these things correct to get the rest of the points, if you want them. So I'm sure you want them. So, yeah. All right. All right, so let's go through the material here. So the goal of the course was to understand the technology and protocols underlying the World Wide Web in terms of HTML and CSS, and also to become familiar with the common tools and the techniques for developing web applications. And we looked at knowledge of HTML. We didn't look at PHP, Perl, or other languages, but we looked at JavaScript and how that would work with HTML. So the question that you're going to get about JavaScript is about how it works with HTML. It's not really a JavaScript question. This is not a JavaScript programming course. There is a JavaScript programming course being offered next term, however, if you're interested in that. So I'm going to kind of skip the web versus the internet concept. There's no questions on that on the exam in that regard. And what we're looking at then is we create and we use JavaScript to give us dynamic content. So the differences between static and dynamic pages as a core concept, most web pages are static. HTML is a static markup language, just provides us content to the screen. If we want to make it dynamic, then we add a scripting language to it. And when we do that, we're looking at being able to rotate things, have animation, process forms, and do a bunch of stuff with that, which makes it more functional. So the concept of static versus dynamic is actually on the exam in terms of one of the core concepts. So we've got like maybe 3 categories of questions on the exam. One of them I call the basic core concepts, which, as this is an example here, the static versus dynamic pages. Another category is going to be on the tags. There's a ton of tag questions. In fact, I'm looking at this right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 tag questions out of 22. So that's a lot of tag questions. The tags are the common tags that you've been working with. It's syntax of the tags, what the tags are doing. And some of the questions have a combination of multiple tags. And it's asking you a question, which, in fact, here, I'll read you question number 5. So I'll put in some blah, blah, blahs, but let's see. Actually, I can read you the entire question, well, part of the question. So here goes. Which of the following tag sets would display blah, 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 followed by a blank line? So, and then you have A, B, C, D, and you have to look at the tag sets where you've got words inside of tags, and you're looking for the one that's going to display blah, 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 followed by a blank line. No, only one answer. Only one answer per question. That is correct, that is. It's not multiple select. It's choose the select, the circle, the best answer. Okay, so this is the one of the areas that to be concerned with is the fact that HTML doesn't do dynamic, nothing dynamic. It's all static. Actually, we have HTML. There's no HTML5 questions on the exam either, by the way. It's all 4. Then we have the concept of the client-side programming that we talked about in terms of JavaScript that happens on the client side and Java applets that happen on the client side. Differences between client-server would be that anything running on the server, a scripting language like PHP is an example, or Perl runs on a server. Clients run JavaScript, stuff like that. And that's the browser that's supporting it through a browser plugin, as we're aware of, I hope, at this point. The server-side programming, we didn't really talk about CGI in this class, but that's one of the technologies. You do not have to know about any of the technologies related to client-side or server-side. These are just some of the things we went over in the class, but you don't actually have to know anything about them. You don't actually have to know, or do you have to know? Let's see if you have to know anything about the URL, Uniform Resource Locator. No, you don't. There's no URL questions on here either, but you guys know what a URL is, I hope. If you don't, well, there's no hope for you. There is an anchor tag question, however, that uses a URL, but no, the common concept of the URL is not really important. We are looking at HTTP. I shouldn't say it's not important. It's not on the exam. The HTTP protocol is what we're using. I hope you know that because you go http://www. That's the URL part. Okay, so I can kind of skip through this stuff in the beginning. So the beginning is kind of just a little bit of review. This is actually kind of your last lecture for the course as well, so this is why there's so much extra stuff in here. And every term I write a different exam, so this exam is different from the last time. So that's why I'm telling you what's on it, what's not on it, and in terms of what's in this lecture set. HTML basics, this stuff is on there. So We know HTML is a mock-up language for static content of web pages, and it refers to the fact that the pages are more than just text. They contain multimedia, provide links for jumping within them and without, outside of them. We know about that. We know about the mock-up that refers to the fact that it works with symbols and tags. And we know that web development involves creating these web pages and putting them together. And we've been using Notepad, actually, or text editors. There's also other development tools that are out there that you can use. We know that's different than doing programming, I hope. That programming is assembly language and high-level other languages. Tags versus elements. You want to know the difference between a tag and an element, of course. HTML specifies the sets of tags, identifies the structure of the content of the type. Tags are enclosed by the opening and closing bracket here. So those are tags. Here we have a tag as an image tag where the source is equal to image.gif. Specifies the image. So most tag comes in pairs, as we've seen, marking the beginning and the ending of the tag. Here's the title, this title beginning, and then the title end. And we know that an HTML element is the object enclosed inside of the pair of tags. So those are the elements. Because what's going to happen is in the language of the questions, it's going to ask you about the element, or it's going to ask you about the tag. And then you're going to go, well, and then you're going to naturally guess the wrong answer, because there will be a correct one for an element and there will be a correct one for the tag, but which one did it really ask you about? So it's kind of tricky that way. So otherwise it would be too easy. I have to give you some challenge. So make sure you read the questions, because questions are, like the one I just read you, something followed by a blank line, which means you're going to use something, that tag that's going to actually put a blank line at the end of whatever it's doing. So you're going to pick the one that has, but there'll be another one that won't have that ending tag on there that will do the same thing. So the answers are very close. It's not like dog opening tag, cat closing tag or something. It's actually looks correct. But if you read the question, all of them will look correct. And when you read the question, if the question is asking you about an element or it's asking you about a tag, there's one that's going to be correct for the element or one for the tag or something. There is no strict versus experimental versus anything versus XHTML. There's no XHTML questions, but most of you actually practice that anyway because that's how we're all trained to do it these days. Each opening tag has a closing tag. Capital. We know it's not case sensitive, I hope, at this point as well. So here's some examples of some tags if you've never seen them before. At my homepage, the bold, the paragraph, and the document's collection of elements with text and media with content. So we also want to know about the structure elements. What are the structure elements? Well, we have a head section, we have a body section of the document itself. There are some questions on the structure. So the head section contains the information that the browser is going to use and the web page might use as well, such as, for example, the inclusion of a scripting language like JavaScript. Also for style definitions belong in the header if we're going to put some in there. We can also put style definitions in the body, and we can also put style definitions in an outside file and include it in the header. And as a side note, before, I haven't gotten to CSS yet, but remember the 3 ways of doing it, because there's going to be a question on that as well. It basically just covers everything we talked about in the class. So here we have the HTML document, which begins with HTML, ends with HTML. Remember that we do have HTML as a tag at the beginning of that document. That's important actually, because if you leave it out and you use some scripting languages, it doesn't work. So people can write sloppy HTML code, not even put HTML opening tag at the beginning of the document. And it works just fine until they start using PHP or something else. And then they go, oh, what happened with that? It's not working. And then we also know that we can embed HTML inside of other scripting languages, and we can put them anywhere we want. The whole document doesn't have to be an HTML document. So as long as we start out with an HTML opening tag, follow it with a closing tag, we can embed that anywhere we want inside of the file. So it's not file by file pages, it's opening and closing HTML tag, which is telling the web browser we're writing HTML code. So our document starts with an opening HTML, closes with an HTML, and it's anywhere. And we can have multiple documents inside of one page if we want to, actually, as a concept. So, and we've seen that actually a couple of examples with the scripting languages. So, okay, so we have the head section, we have the body section, and we have the text layouts here. So we know that we can use that the body contains multiple lines of text normally, and that the text layouts and spacing is pretty much ignored by the browser. We don't actually get anything for us automatically. We have to do it ourselves. Every sequence of white spaces is interpreted as one space. That's a good concept to remember as well. And the browser automatically wraps the text to fit the size of the window. So unless you're putting hard returns in and things like that, you're not going to get a hard return. The lines are going to wrap if you make the window bigger or smaller. And the layout of the HTML document is readable, but will not affect how it's viewed. So can lay out the text in the HTML document so it is readable, which is what this is doing here.
Is there any question on that?
Yeah, there is a question on that. There's a question on all the stuff I'm talking about. There's 22 questions on it. Yeah. So if you don't make it, you can make it readable when you're looking at the file. Obviously, when you double click on it, you put it into a web browser, it's all one line, which is what that's referring to. You can override default layouts, actually. So here we have, for most part, the layout of the text must be left to the browser. Why? Well, because the browser needs to know how to do it. It needs to know how to format. But we're overriding text layouts when we're putting in fonts and carriage returns and line breaks and all sorts of different things. So you can cause a line break using a BR with a / tag, no closing tag. This is an opening and a closing together, by the way, if you haven't seen that yet. Here's the P tag for paragraph, starts a new paragraph preceded by a blank line. Look at that. That gives, actually it's kind of interesting how many of these tags leave a blank line at the end. Like headers do that, and the paragraph does that, and, so BR doesn't do that though. So can enforce a space character using the non-breaking space here with the ampersand. So remember that there is an ampersand there, because you'll see in some of the questions it'll have an ampersand, but it'll be BNSP or something instead of NBSP, or or there won't be an ampersand, or there'll be two ampersands or something. So it's kind of, make sure you read my best advice, make sure you read the questions and read all of the answers to make sure that you're not just picking the one that looks the best first. And unfortunately there's there's A, B, C, D, E's, and F's. There's like four or five different things to look at. I have to make it some challenge for you. So, all right, we also looked at CSS in the course, and here's a cascading style sheet and the concept of the cascading style sheets, where we're looking at the three, as I mentioned before, the three different ways of using it and what we're doing with it. Let me see if there's any style questions on here. There's one or two syntax questions I remember. There's two CSS syntax questions using CSS. I can't tell you what it is because you're gonna find out exactly what it is when you look at it next week. So I have to leave some element of surprise for you. So there's not that much of a surprise left here. But there are some CSS questions, so it's not going to nitpick you on all of the different ways of doing it, because a lot of the the tags that you're putting in the style sheet are the tags you're using in the document. So the syntax for creating a CSS style tag, for creating an element or using it, is using an external file inside of the HTML code, creating the style itself. Be familiar with the generic kind of composition of that, how those go together. HTML forms and JavaScript. The form concept is on the exam as well. The unload of the web browser, of the page in the web browser. The buttons, the text boxes, the text areas. I'm not going to quiz you on all of the different unblur, not blur, or, all the different built-in functionalities, or how to get the date or something, or the last modified date or something like that of the document. But we know that we have forms in JavaScript that can be used with it. Most browsers, 99.9% of them out there, support JavaScript. So we have event-driven programs. So in C++ programs are serially run in HTML, JavaScript environments. Users click on things. That's what's meant by event-driven. That's another core kind of concept to be familiar with. And the JavaScript scripting languages in general give us event-driven behavior for static content. So it works with HTML. Here's an example of an event-driven behavior, the onload and on-unload, which are methods, simple events when the page is loaded or unloaded. So we can play a sound, send an email, do something on a page load or an unload, save attributes or something like that. And here's just actually this is not a bad lecture set to refresh your memory on all the different concepts as well. Here's a function, hello, that was put in here. This is one of the examples we looked at earlier in the course. There's the hello and the goodbye. So when the page loads up, it says hello, it goes away, goodbye. It'll pop up windows and stuff. No browser features are going to be tested. You don't have to know anything about the browser features at all. HTML forms as a concept starts out with a form tag. We get the form a name, then we can get to form elements on there. We can take the form elements, get their values, and use that for something. Maybe to send the information to a database to do a login or something, if we're doing a form for a login. So the elements include here an example for input buttons, selection lists, radio buttons, checkboxes, passwords. You don't have to know all the different elements for input or for anything like that. Or for output would be a text box or a text area. The button element here, where we have the button type, is going to be a button, and then we have an on-click event. So the attribute includes a value, which specifies what's going to appear on the button. And then the on-click specifies with the code that's going to be executed when the button is actually clicked. That's kind of basic stuff you should be familiar with, because it's going to say, the question is going to ask you about the on-click event, and which one of these things would be best to do this, and so it's going to show you a couple of examples of different lines of code for that, and you'll have to select which one. So in terms of buttons in JavaScript here, we have an event handler that can specify any JavaScript code. So what do we have here? Form here, and we have on-click is going to be equal to, the number is equal to this, and we're putting the JavaScript in the on-click event, so that is possible actually. You don't have to have it run a function. It can just run the code itself if you want to. The concept of the JavaScript function, let me see if I actually have anything on that, because I don't believe I have anything on JavaScript in here. Nope, don't have anything on JavaScript in here. So, well, I can kind of skip through this stuff then, because we don't really have any JavaScript questions on this exam. But it might refresh your memory on some of the text areas and text and input boxes and things, which are on the exam. Form elements are on the exam. The text box here is limited to one line of text, or the text area is limited to multiple lines. No questions on frames. Let me just make sure if there's any frame questions on this exam. Because frames are sort of becoming a thing of the past. So I kind of made this as current as possible. No, there are no questions on frames, but we know what a frame is, I hope, because we had to do one. I'm going to skip the JavaScript question because I already told you there's no JavaScript on here. This is a generic review that I use for every term, so it's not going to be applied to us. When I get done with this, I'm going to go through question by question and tell you what areas they're actually on this exam, so we can see what we're looking at. But JavaScript is not Java, obviously, we know that, of course. It's for client-side programming, scripting. This is kind of the interesting thing, a simple transfer of a normal HTML page, where we have the server where we're loading the HTML files on, I hope. You guys have figured that out, and you don't actually have to load them to a server. You can just put them on your desktop or in a directory and double-click on them and load them from there as well. They load in a browser from anywhere, but the concept of making it available to the world is putting it out there for the world to get. So you're going to put it on an open public server, and then the client's going to connect to the server and it's going to get back the HTML information. That's going to end up in the client's browser, Internet Explorer, Netscape or something. And then it's coming from a web server application, usually Apache for the most part. And then behind there we've got all the files that we're going to populate into the server. So that would be the basic HTTP. This is the HTTP part, actually. It's the protocol for the transport. All right, so I don't really need to go through client server and stuff, but let's look at the final questions to ponder. What technologies are available for the internet? That's where the basic questions, some of the basic questions are coming from that kind of question. You know, what technologies do we look at? What would you want to use scripting languages for? Why would you want to use one? What's the difference between client-side, server-side applications? I don't believe I have anything on the exam in that category. How can HTML be used with other languages? It's used with JavaScript on the exam, but there's no JavaScript questions. So you can probably imagine what kind of question I'm going to ask you about that. And basic parts of HTML. Don't have to worry about Perl, PHP, or CGI documents or anything like that, but knowing that the HTML part starts out with the opening HTML tag, closes with the HTML tag. And what would you use these technologies for to accomplish a task, to provide a solution for a problem, stuff like that. So let's just get right to the core of the exam. Question number 1. I know you're like, what? It's on HTML tags. So what I'm going to do is just tell you the themes of each one of the questions, just to make sure I haven't missed anything. It's actually it's an easy question too. Number 2 is on HTML tag and web browsers. Web browsers and HTML tags used together. Number 3 is also a tag question. So as I say, a majority of it is on tags. Number 4 is a tag question. Number 5 is a multiple tag question, using them together. Also remember the order of tags in the proper order. So, ordering. Number 6 and number 7 are on tags with lists. List tags. List. Bullet points, unordered lists, ordered lists. So I'm practically giving you the exam right now. That's why I said there's no excuses. You guys should come in here and get an A on this thing. Number 8's a tag. Number 9 is a tag. Number 8's kind of interesting. It works with an image. Number 9 is a tag question. Basic tag question. Number 10 and 11 are working with the structure of the document tags. Oh, I lied. Number 12 is a true-false as well. I can't tell you that one. It would be way too easy. It's a 50-50 chance, though. Number 12 is true-false. It's related to CSS, actually. It's actually kind of tricky, too. But you got 50-50 chance on it. Number 13, 14, and 15 are on linking, hyperlinks. Oh, wait a minute. 13 and 15 are on hyperlinks. 14 is on a, you remember the image maps? It's an image map question. Refresh your memory on image maps. Okay, so let's see, number 16 is a linking question. H reference. In fact, each one A, B, C, D starts out H, A space H reference equals. And you're supposed to pick one of these things that does something. Let's see, number 17 and 18 are actually kind of challenging. 17 and 18 are pretty hard, actually. They are, how would I categorize this? I can't state the question. They're both related to forms and actions that are performed on the forms. They're form questions, but they're actually kind of challenging compared to some of the other ones. Oh, number 19 and number 20 are on tables. Table concept. Another table concept. Image maps and tables are good. No, because tables are used a lot, actually. I tried to pick the stuff that's used a lot. You know, what was I on? Was that 18 and 19? No, that was 19 and 20. Okay. 21 and 22. Let's see, 21 is on CSS. 22 is on CSS. So there's more CSS questions than I originally thought. There's two of them instead of one. There are 2 questions, I believe, on CSS so far. 3? Okay. Was there one on the second page? I can't remember what I said. I know I have I know I put some CSS in there, so I think there might be, yes, there's 3 CSS questions on here. Most of it, 90% of it is HTML tags, really, and using tables and using image maps and using JavaScript inside of the HTML page. So I'm going to put the exam away under lock and key. So we're going to have an easy class today. So it allows you a little bit of extra time to finish your assignments, which you have to have done by midnight on the 14th. If they're not in the EMS by midnight on the 14th, they're not in the EMS. They can't be put in the EMS anymore, if that's the case. And let me just take a look at the calendar here. If you receive a message from the administration telling you that the final exams are the week of the 17th through the 21st, ignore the message. Our exam's going to be on the 12th, Wednesday the 12th. I'm rebelling. So Wednesday the 12th, not the 19th. Oh, that's like so close to the end of the year, the 19th. What school is going on that week? What in the world school would have an exam on the 21st? It's like 1, 2, most people take the 21st off. Most companies are giving you. No, no, say it isn't so. Linear algebra is having their exam on the 23rd. Oh, is that a weekend class? You guys have a class meeting the weekend right before Christmas? Did you say that this is ITU? That's absurd. You're taking an exam on, no, not Monday's the 24th. That's Christmas Eve. Isn't Christmas on the 25th? Yeah. It used to be. I don't know. Is it still on the 25th? That just seems, well, who in the world would put a class meeting there? Anyway, most companies around here are taking off from the Friday. Most company people actually have Friday off, the 21st. And then they go through and then they come back. A lot of companies aren't coming back till the 2nd, actually. Yeah. So anyway, I hope I'm making it so you can enjoy your time off. But you're not going to get any time off from other people around here. All right, so questions, comments, concerns. This is your opportunity right now to ask me questions about what's on the final exam, what's not on the final exam, although I pretty much just gave you everything that was on the final exam. You do know that the 14th is the last day to turn in anything, and that I will probably have the grades posted for this course because I'm leaving to go on my vacation on the 19th. So I'm probably going to bring my computer with me, though, because, you know, you can't party hardy for 2 weeks straight without taking a break. I can't. So I will catch up whatever I miss, so don't worry. Don't panic if you don't see everything posted by the 19th. But I'm probably going to spend this weekend here grading and getting everything done so that I can enjoy my vacation. Which means you might actually see your grades by the 19th. Probably. I might actually get them posted. Depends on how long it takes me to grade these suckers. And if everything is turned in on the 14th, which it should be, that means if you send me an email on the 15th, I couldn't turn it in, well, I'm probably going to be finishing my grading up by the end of that weekend, which means I'm going to be able to count it anyway. Yeah? It should be. Well, okay, so here's the thing. No. If you haven't noticed, maybe talk to some of your friends. They've already done it. Some people already got like D- in this class or Fs in this class. Yeah, it's already in the grade book. They already did it. They already went through and graded everything. So for lack of attendance and for I don't know what I haven't heard yet exactly what they were doing, but I've noticed that the grade book's already been updated because I had some messages from some students saying, how come I got a D-? I'm like, I didn't give you any grades yet. Which means if I didn't do it, the administration did it. So, I mean, you know, cross your fingers. Might be a new experience all over again, but I'm pretty sure they're done doing what they were going to do. So, your grades that comes in should be based upon your work. And I don't know what, I quite honestly, I don't know. So, I mean, all I can do is put the grades in and see what happens. So, hopefully you'll see it on the 19th, is what I'm hoping. So, any other questions? And if you had a problem last summer, I'm teaching those classes all over again in January. So the Objective-C, the iPhone, the Android, and the Java class, all the summer classes where people had problems with the plagiarism, are being repeated next term. So if you have to retake it, that's probably not a bad opportunity if you haven't registered yet. Or if you fell into a category where you have to retake one of those courses. So we might be able to, on Mondays, and weekend classes are the other ones. So. Any other questions? We're going to get out early today, so make sure to sign the attendance. I believe there will be attendance taken next week as well, and then you'll have surveys next week, I think. Okay, we're done for today then. It's an easy day, so you guys can finish all your work.